Okay, I'm back. Before I go on with my timeline, I kind of want to talk about trauma bond. At the timeline I'm at now with my PNES and my PTSD as a child, on the timeline I'm around, I guess, like I'm up to like maybe like 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. And right now I just want to interfere what I'm talking about real quick and start to talk about trauma bond before I go on with my timeline. My dad really wasn't a part of me and my sister's lives, even though he was there. My mom is the main caretaker for us, and she was a person I guess I latched onto because she was the parent, and as a child you kind of need like an adult to latch onto, so I latched onto my mom. And when we were young, me and my sister, we got along really well, and her and I would play a lot together, so we were kind of there for each other when my mom wasn't and she was absent and she was off doing what she was doing, and we were kind of like left alone to do what we wanted to do and play. So as I proceed on with this, I want to talk about trauma bond. I never knew anything about any of these words, these big words like trauma bond. I didn't know anything about complex PTSD. I didn't know anything about just regular PTSD. I didn't know anything about anxiety. I didn't know depression, because you're a child, you don't know anything. You just go, the energy in the room, and you try to figure it out for yourself and try to figure out how to react to it and like what to do. So let me talk about my mom for a little bit. Okay, my mother grew up in a household of many brothers and sisters. I think she grew up with, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 brothers, and it was 3 sisters, including her. So she grew up in a big household. Back then, that's why they called them the boomers, because they had a lot of family growing up and a lot of siblings. So my mom was the oldest daughter, so she was usually helping my grandmother a lot, and I think her trauma is from how she was raised when she was a child, and also talking to my aunt and my uncles and family a lot. They just said she was just like, she's always been kind of crazy and kind of mentally disrupted, I'm gonna say, mentally ill and off. So, as she grew up, she started to be a little bit more wild. She started to be, more, I don't know what words to use, more unhinged, I guess I could say, more unhinged, and a little bit more reckless with her life and how she lived it. So, I understand why she chose my dad to be her partner in life, her husband, and why she stuck by him, because he basically kept her grounded and he matched her craziness and her way she lives her life. So as I got older, I kind of noticed, I didn't know what it was. As a child, you really don't know mental illness, so back to that. So I noticed my mom was like always off all the time. Like there would be times where she would get really angry for no particular reason, and then all of a sudden, like a light switch, she would just go back to being like happy and normal. And it was like very confusing as a child. As a child, you're just like, oh no, I did something wrong, and you're always blaming yourself, or like, oh no, she's in another mood again. So I spent a lot of time in my bedroom trying to avoid that. And there were times too when my mom was like a really like nice person, and she was a good person, where she was like okay to be around. And it was just very confusing. So as I was getting older, I was forced into a house where my dad didn't care, and he was scary, and he was a sociopath. And then my mother, she was unhinged. I believe my mom is bipolar. She has borderline personality disorder, and she's a narcissist, and I think she's a sociopath because she doesn't feel like emotion sometimes. When I sense her when she does things the way she does, it's like empty, but she's like showing emotion. So I don't really know what to call that. Like there were times where my mom would take us like to places, like she would take us like to the mall or to the grocery store, or, like we would go ride our bike in a parking lot and she would stand there and watch us, or she would take my sister to cheerleading practice. And there were times where I actually felt like she was trying, but then all of a sudden like something was switching her head, and then she'd get mad, or she'd like hold it against us that she did this for us. Or it wasn't like, you know, out of love. I think it was out of like holding something over our head, like something, well, I did this for you, so you got to do this for me. Or it was just like it's hard for me to find words because I'm not really used to using my words, because my whole life I've held everything inside, and I had to like figure it out for myself. So wording things has been really hard for me. So bear with me when I'm trying to explain everything I've been through. At 45 years old, my mom and I have had like this up and down relationship where she would just get mad at me and then she would pull me in, get mad at me, then pull me in, get mad at me, then pull me in. She'd be nice, and then she'd turn around and be a complete jerk and be like very abusive, or be very like emotionally abusive. She would hold things over my head, try to make me feel guilty, you know, blame me for things that I had nothing to do with, or blame me for why she couldn't do something. Or she'd always point at someone else to blame why her life is crappy, or blame. But she never blames herself. She would never point at herself and say, I'm the problem, or I need to get help. I don't know how to handle myself. And I think that's part of the problem with my mother, is the fact that she has a lot of childhood trauma, and she's never dealt with it before. And as life went on with other traumas, which I'll get to throughout my video series, is that she never dealt with it. How my mom really deals with things is she pretends it never happened. She'll pretend like nothing's wrong. If you try to approach her and talk to her about anything, she shuts down. She just doesn't talk about anything. And then that's how it became for me, emotional neglect, emotional abuse, being ignored, not having a safe place, not having a safe person to go to. My mother was not a very safe person to talk to her about things that bothered you, because she would make it seem like your problems are smaller than hers. Or she would just say, you know, it's not a big deal. Just, you know, she'd tell me all the time I'm being too sensitive, or, you know, I shouldn't worry about that. Or she'd be like, why are you crying? You shouldn't be crying. You know, minimizing everything I felt. So it got to the point where I would just keep everything to myself and not talk out loud about anything. So, that is my trauma bond with my mother. She would have her good moments, and then all of a sudden, her brain would flick a switch, and then she'd be crazy, and then I wouldn't talk to her. But then, she would somehow say something to pull me back in to talk to her again, and nothing got dealt with. No feelings got expressed. If you dared to try to express anything you felt, she would get mad at you and shut down, or call you names, or be really mean. And then it got to the point where you didn't want to say anything, so you just held it inside and just dealt with it. And that is how trauma bond with my mother got made. And I finally dealt with that a couple months ago. At 45, I finally cut the cord, and I don't talk to my mother anymore. But I'll get to that when more in the series of talking that I do. Now that I know I'm a neurodivergent, and reading up on it and everything explains why I was the way I was, and why I felt the way I felt. I feel like a deep emotion with things. I take things as critical. I take things seriously. I take things literally. I take things with heart. I'm big on emotion and caring, and you put out what what you want. And with my mother, I didn't know what she wanted. She was like, so it came also to the point where I became a people pleaser, where I would do things, to get gratitude from her. That's the only way I could get attention from her, is to do things that were like gonna catch her attention, like fold towels or do dishes, or like just do things that kind of like make her happy. But it wasn't like a thing where, she would do things for me to make me happy. I would always have to do things for her to make her happy. It was always about serving her. And it was never really about like me in that way. I hope that makes sense. So not only did she shut me down, I mean, I was already introvert and I was already neurodivergent at that time. I didn't know it. But also too, it's like it made me a people pleaser, where I felt like I had to do all this work to make people like me. And the fact that it was hard for me to say no to things, because when I said no to my mother, I don't want to do it, she would yell at me and get really mean. And it kind of shut me down. So I would just do things, even if I didn't want to do things that people asked me to do. So that kind of built up inside of me too. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. As a kid too, I want to say I was a real loner. Like I really didn't I couldn't really figure out how to make friends. A lot of the people that I were friends with, they kind of made me their friend. They were more extroverted than I am. I'm kind of like a quiet person, and it was hard for me to make friends. So a lot of my friends that I had in school, they made me their friend. So when I was at home, I was pretty much a loner. I really didn't like talk to anybody. I kind of just hung out in my room, because it was kind of just not, for my nervous system, it didn't work out being downstairs. I was nervous all the time. I really didn't know how to act when I was downstairs with everybody. I kind of shut down. So that's my trauma bond with my mom, and some other things that a little bit about me, and what I grew up in, and my body reactions to everything, and my mind, how my mind works today. And I've been going to therapy now for 8 years, so I've taught myself not to be a certain way, and I don't have to be, and to kind of figure out who I am, because I really didn't have an identity before PNES. I was kind of this shell. I was kind of beat up in a way. I think my mom like formed me to be this person that's weak, that would follow her around and do whatever she wanted me to do. And coming down to the realization of that really hurts, because I didn't really have a parent. I had a keeper, and I'm still trying to sort that part out in my head, so I really can't talk about it because I don't know what to say about it. Again, I want to apologize if this sounds like a bunch of rambling and a million thoughts going in every direction. I'm still trying to figure out how to public talk about my thoughts, because a lot of thoughts are in my head and I don't know how to put them out in organized sentences and try to stay on subject, neurodivergent. So yeah, and this is all I'm really probably gonna write, or not write, voice about right now in my vlog, talking about me and my relationship with my parents and experiences that I've gone through. But when I come back, I'll talk about more like either mental health, or I'll continue my timeline of when I grew up, as I grew up, and how my brain kind of collapsed and got PNES. Okay, guys, if you can follow, that'd be great. And subscribe to my channel and give me a thumbs up, kind of encourage me to keep going. And thank you for watching. Bye.